As I'm flying through the air, I see myself. I leave my body and then I'm seeing myself. But I'm no longer in my body, and I'm having this vision from above looking down at my body. There's what I perceived was an angel, and she was just floating there, and we're talking and we're having this conversation, but it's not with our mouths. We're having a conversation with our thoughts.
Welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Near Death podcast. Today I'm chatting with Jon Miller, who has become a friend over the last few years. We've been chatting back and forth, and I'm very excited to have Jon on the show sharing his experience for the very first time. Jon has spent much of his professional life based in Hollywood, working as an actor, working as a stunt double, and doing all sorts of things on the big screen. Much of his life was about stepping in and pretending to be somebody else, whether that was on the screen, whether that was in his stunt work, and he had a very life-transforming near-death experience, which brought his life back to being all about him and his journey in this world and his life here in this physical realm. So, Jon, welcome to the show. Fabulous to have you here. What is your story?
Well, goodness, I thank you very much, Christy, for the opportunity to be a part of this and to express my story and what happened in my life, which I believe was a real gift and a miracle. I was an actor in television and working as a stuntman, body double, and we had just finished filming at the studio in San Diego. And a large pachyderm, it was an elephant, was coming out of the studio, and I thought it was a unique moment
Yeah, an
to
elephant.
document. So I ran out with my little 35 millimeter camera and I took a picture of this beautiful, enormous elephant who's quite a movie star now. He does all the commercials that you see on TV for pharmaceuticals. But he was coming out and I took the photo, which the studio ended up using as their caption for the studio itself. I took it up to Stu. It was Stu Siegel was the name of the gentleman producing these television shows that I was able to work on. And he thought it was a great shot and may I use it for the TV? I said, that'd be great. So I said, well, we heard the lunch. It was time for lunch break. We all break for about 45 minutes. And I thought I would go for a jog. I took off my shirt. I was a bodybuilder at the time, so I wasn't very bashful. And I took off my shirt. And so pretty much all I'm wearing is my shorts and my tennis shoes. And I had my wallet because I wanted to cash my check. And I started down for a jog and I was just saying, what a beautiful day. And I was looking up at the blue sky and so thankful for my life. And I just met this really nice gal. Her name's Gina Giese. And we were going to spend the weekend together and meet some of her friends. Well, we came to the corner after about half a mile of running. I came to the corner of Ruffin Road and Claremont Mesa Boulevard, which is the corner street right next to Wells Fargo. But there's two triple lanes that you have to cross to safely get to Wells Fargo. Well, my light turned green for me to take a walk across the street, which I proceeded to do. And a car pulled up with some young people on board, and they had a bunch of sodas and things on their dash, and they really weren't looking, and they pulled right into the crosswalk. So I went around them, behind them, and when I emerged on the other side, a pickup truck, a white Ford pickup truck, hit me. Going about 40 miles an hour. It was like all I saw was a flash of white, and I went over the hood, going through the windshield. My face went through the windshield, and then he continued his motion forward, which sent me flying. And witnesses at the police report said I went between like 20 and 30 feet in the air, and so I was a little bit of a rag doll. And I never lost consciousness. So as I'm flying through the air, I see myself. I leave my body, and then I'm seeing myself and the truck. I could see the pickup truck, but I'm no longer in my body, and I'm having this vision from above, looking down at my body. And then everything kind of fades to this beautiful, warm, bright white kind of like being inside a cloud, I guess, is how I guess I would imagine it. But it's not foggy in there. It's very clear, but it's just a very nice, soft, loving white around you. And to my right, about 6 feet away, there's what I perceived was an angel, and she was just floating there. And we're talking and we're having this conversation, but it's not with our mouths. It's we're having a conversation with our thoughts, and uh, the thoughts are very, they're pretty quick and they're honest and they contain emotion. They color everything that you would try to express with your words. She and I were expressing with just our thoughts, and she advised me, let's turn and look. Let's walk. Let's look at this. So she turned and looked. So I turned and looked with her, and to my right, I started seeing these images coming in, and they were very, very vivid. Uh, Pictures of my like live movies with smell and emotion, and you could you I literally was back in this particular specific moment of my life, and it started with what I remember was Christmas with my mom and dad and my brother and sister, and I'm in this movie, and I'm smiling. I could smell the pine, the tree, and I could just it was like I was completely re-experiencing. And then these continued on, and then I was then it was a later part of my life, and I'm playing hockey with all my neighbors on this rink. It was a frozen pond behind our house, and all the neighbors are there, and we're having fun and we're laughing. And again, it's like I'm re-experiencing this. It's so vivid. And these movies continue on, and they did, and up until the present moment, where I am with uh, you know, with the impact, and I'm flying out of my body, and then the movie stops, and that's where it ended. And I turned to her, and she said, "No, hold on, wait a minute. There's more." So I turned back, and then I see a little boy and a woman playing baseball up on this ridge. To jump ahead, I ended up living on that ranch, and I ended up marrying that woman, and that little boy is my son.
Oh, wow.
And so she showed me my future, and I turned to her and I said, "Where am I?" And she says, "You no longer exist." And I said, "Well, it's not fair because this is my life, and this is my dream, and I said, I need to be there. This is my future." And she asked me, "Is this your choice?" That's when, like, we're looking eye to eye, and she said, "Is this your choice?" And I said, "Yes, I want to be there." So the next thing I know, I'm back in my body, and I realized that I'm flying through the air. So I put my hands behind me because I was a stuntman, and I knew that if I didn't, then I would crack my head open when I hit the pavement.
Mm.
So I did, and I ended up fracturing both my wrists, and my hands are still pretty messed up to today, and I've had quite a few surgeries on them. But and I do apologize for that emotion, but it's just that part of the story that I'm blessed with, and because I'm here, and I married that woman. I got to have that boy, and he and I are best friends, and I that she gave me the opportunity to experience something like that and still come back. Um, I i really am very blessed, and it's changed my life in so many different ways as a person for the better. um, in my heart, I'm very empathetic. I i spend a lot of time picking worms and frogs and things off the path, or things where people may have heard of.
Yeah.
Anything that, and take the moment to smell a flower and to help others. And I love talking a lot. I talk to everybody. I take walks every day, and I can't walk by somebody without saying something or commenting on the pleasantry of sharing that moment with them, and being able to be back So the appreciation is greatly felt, and um, I live my dream. I live what she showed me, and I guess one of the difficulties now is that I was given a second chance at life. I'm not really sure what my future is. I pray a lot to God, and I ask, what would you like me to be, or where would you like me to go, and what would you like me to do? Because I really believe that I can make a difference, that I can help bridge the unknown, people who are afraid, or people that are concerned about loved ones that have passed. And I I don't want them to be misunderstanding that it's not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing to, it's hard to explain it to somebody that death is not a bad thing, and to go to heaven and to have that experience. It's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Mm, mm. Thank you, John. Thank you. That is, oh, I love the way that you've shared that with us. Thank you. And the emotion is really, it's really beautiful. You apologized at one point for having the emotion, and I'm just thinking, oh, the emotion is what brings us all together. We are emotional beings. We are in a physical experience. And yeah, thank you. I feel really touched by that. There were a few times when you were talking and I'm literally feeling goosebumps on my arms and thinking, oh my goodness, this is amazing. The light, the amazing light. You called her your angel, this lady. I assume that it's a lady.
Yes.
It's quite hard to put it into physical terms, isn't it? Our understanding of a lady angel there. What was it like for you straight after that? You said that you flew through the air, you've hurt your wrists, and I know that even today you've got quite significant, I'm not going to say injuries, but consequences from this all happening, from this all taking place. What
Yes.
was it like for you straight after this happened? When you realized that the accident happened, you're there. Do you remember lying on the road? Do you
I
remember
was
what
so
happened straight
excited.
after?
It was like everything was in slow motion. And when I hit the ground, I stood right up. I was so elated to be alive, to be back, and to be able, like, I was alive. I'm thinking, I'm alive. It was
Wow.
like out of a movie. And I was so excited, and being fresh from heaven, I was so full of love. I wanted to touch everybody. I wanted to hug them, and I
Yeah.
wanted to express like what I'd felt, like the love of that light, and the angel. And there's so much that happened there. I kind of gave the Reader's Digest version, but I could give you like the finite details of what I felt around me. It was like all these souls were surrounding you, and they're all hugging you, and they're all like welcoming you, like they're helping guide you to this path.
This is
To
on Earth after the accident?
up in heaven. When I was there, and the angel, she was like, I I had known her as if she and I had been friends, and I knew, it's like I'd seen her before. It was no shock to be there and to be in her presence. And she
Yeah.
was like, again, semi-transparent. I looked to my right because I'm re-experiencing what I experienced. And she was very, she was pretty, and she had flowing hair, as long hair. And again, she was semi-transparent because she wasn't of the physical. She was of a spiritual level. And I could kind of see through her. And but when I came back, and when I hit the ground, there were a lot of injuries. And uh, people were telling me, I could hear then cars and people screaming, and horns, and people yelling like, sit down. And I I went back to his truck, which was about 15 feet away, and there was glass all over the ground. And I couldn't talk to him because the windshield was knocked out from my face. And so I went around to the side door, and I leaned in, and I asked him if he was okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was on his phone, and he was crying. And I said, it's okay. I said, and I reached out to touch his hand, and he said, please go sit down. So I did, and I went and I sat on the curb, and I looked down, and then I started saying to myself, I don't remember wearing red socks. I always wear white socks. And then I started taking an inventory, and I have a fractured spine, and I I would get glass out of my face. It would just, while I'm shaving, all of a sudden there'd be some blood, and then a piece of glass would, I'd find another piece of glass.
Oh,
This went on for about a
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
I couldn't walk straight for about a year, and I never told anybody because I didn't want people to worry about me. Um,
Yeah.
and when I sat down at the curb, I had a couple people from the studio who happened to be going to lunch, and they were peeking in the ambulance because they put me on a wooden board and they strapped me in. And I remember I had my sides from that day's filming in my pocket, and I gave them to the two ambulance drivers, the one who was riding with me, and I was trying to get my hand out because it was strapped in, and I pulled the sides out, which were the dialogue and all the words from the television show, which was a comedy that we were filming that day. And I'm handing it to him, and I said, "You've got to read these. These are so funny." And he couldn't believe that I was alert, up, and they took me to the hospital, and I guess I left a large chunk of my back somewhere on the truck. Um,
Mm.
and the doctor said that they could sew me up, but I think they can't really do much about that. And they sewed up my face, and I had an artery that ripped open on my leg, and it was spurting blood. And um, I'm trying to think what else happened. The strange thing was that 10 days later, I had a complete healing. Within 10 days, I never sat down. I was never bedridden. I made sure that I stayed up. I didn't want to go back to the hospital. I just wanted to stay and to be there with my girlfriend Gina. And
Mm.
the girl in the girl in that I met up the last segment that the angel showed me, I married her, and she became my wife, and she and I had that little boy. So I got to see the future that was to happen. And it was strange when we got married, and they were doing an ultrasound, and I knew that it was a boy.
Mm.
And I asked her, and she said, would you like the nurse asked, would you like to know the sex of the child? And Gina said, yeah. And it was Dylan, the boy. And so dreams do come true. And I got to see the future. I don't know how many people get that opportunity, but
Yeah.
it's quite a miracle.
It is quite a miracle. It's amazing. As you were talking about how you had all these injuries and yet you stood up and you went over and you were talking to the guy in the truck saying it's okay. I was reminded of like a superhuman power that comes when someone's in trouble or they have an accident or something, and you hear about people being able to lift up cars and the surge of energy that takes over people and they're able to do all these amazing things. And I'm thinking about you, and I was going, oh, that's like that. It's like this amazing divine energy that's come in and enabled you to do something quite extraordinary. Get your physical body walking around after such an accident. And like you're saying, you didn't know you had red socks on. You didn't. You had white socks on, but they turned red.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you had this supernatural power within you? As you know, when you came back, you stood straight to your feet. You were quite amazed by the world. You were happy to be back. Do you think that's what you brought back with you?
That's a very good question. The unraveling of what you experience up there, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to, it takes years almost to, to, to dream about what you have. And there was a dark side too that I didn't talk about, but we can talk about that. But,
Mm.
not a dark side to me, but a dark side that was appearing when I dreamt at night, and I would wake up, but we'll get that. But I think the super powered thing was, is that angel, that soul has come with me, and I have a psychic ability to some level now, premonitions. I it's hard to explain, but there's been times where this voice has talked to me and told me things. I was driving about a year ago, and the voice is talking and it's telling me to watch the truck ahead of you. And I wasn't really, in my mind, I'm thinking, why am I hearing this? And why am I obsessing about this truck? And it's telling me,
Mm.
watch the tire. And so I start watching this tire, and then in a couple seconds it wobbles. The whole wheel comes off the truck, and it comes right at my vehicle, and I was expecting it, and I just swerved enough so the tire misses my windshield and bounces and goes right. It had the wheel on it, and the sparks are coming off the truck, and it went to the side of the road. And so there was somebody, as I just think it was like this little angel that helps me, and she has done it before, and it's
Mm.
been quite the benefit. And again, I kind of dodged what could have been a bad situation.
Mm.
I do other things too. Like I'm very impulsive. There's been a couple times where I've stopped my car like on the highway, and jumped out and picked up like deer that have been hit that are still alive, because I and carry them off the highway, while they're and then I this happened about 5 years ago, and I remember blessing the deer as it was dying on the side of the road, and the whole highway stopped in a line, watching me do this. But I
Mm.
was fearless. I really didn't matter. In that moment, it doesn't seem my soul or my body was that critical as it is to be there with a soul who is going through the path that's
Mm.
leaving the planet or leaving its physical body. I feel an impulse to be there with it.
Mm. Were you like that before you had your accident?
No, I was a hunter. I hunted. From the Midwest, and I spent most of my youth with my friend Brad. We'd be out in the fields hunting, and that's what we did. And with our hunting dog, and that's one thing I kind of regret now in retrospect, is the animals that I had shot or I had hunted, because I see life so much differently now.
Mm.
I got rid of all my firearms, and they don't seem to be important to me at all anymore. And I really have a connection with all life now, and I really don't want to hurt anything. Flies, doesn't matter. I won't hurt anything.
Yeah, I
I
can
can't.
relate to that too. It's horrible, the flies, especially in summer over here. We have a lot of
Oh, it's been
flies, and
bad.
it's not because anything's dirty or unhygienic or anything like that. We just have a lot of flies. And you want the windows open, they come in, and I get so frustrated by them. I'm sure they're there just to test me. But yeah, I don't want to kill them. I don't want to hurt them. I just want them to peacefully fly out the window and go and live their life. But there's probably something deeper in that. So I
I
hear you
wish we could find
even,
a way to lead them out. Lead them out the
yeah,
door. I wish there was a way you could just kind of like walk and say, "Please follow me. I
I
don't want to
wish
hurt
they
you.
would
Just
listen.
I catch spiders a lot. I caught a spider last night, and the average person probably wouldn't feel too comfortable. But I will go out. I will spend an hour with a glass and a little piece of paper or
Yeah,
cardboard trying to catch things. But it means a lot to me, and
yeah. It's,
life is so precious when you come back and you realize how lucky we are to be here, and to be learning our lessons, and to learn how to learn empathy and compassion. Love is it's not too hard to learn, but you really need to remember that just because you don't see perfectly eye to eye with something, it doesn't mean you can't love that individual or that soul. It's they're doing the same thing as you. They're here, and they're trying to figure things out and learn their lessons, and prepare themselves for their next, for a higher level of consciousness. And
yeah. So is that why you think that we're here having this human experience while we're here on Earth?
a lot of it. I talked to my son about it. He's really intrigued about the experience, and some of the things
Mm.
that I've kind of brought back with me now. I can tell you, being in Hollywood for all those years, my acting name was Trent Jon Miller, and I don't go by that name now. But that Trent Jon Miller is not the Jon Miller that I am now, because he was a egotistical, driven, all about me, and making money, and the notoriety of Hollywood, and uh, that doesn't fit me at all anymore. Though I'm very
Mm.
grateful for it. I that was some of the wonderful chapters of my life.
Mm.
But I think the things that are to come, moving forward are going to be so much more substantial in my life and what I can hopefully offer society, um, than just a smile, a face, a stunt, a body double, whatever it may be.
Yeah, yeah. I find that interesting. You've talked quite a bit about how you have changed significantly through this experience, down from connection and love and caring for people and even the insects and the animals, and how you have significantly changed. Why do you think this experience happened to you?
Another good question. When I was young, I was involved in the Lutheran Church. Our family was uh, very active in the church, and I remember every Sunday we went. There was really, even if you weren't feeling 100%, we went to church, and I was involved in the choir, and I also got involved in helping the pastor, lighting the candles, things like that before a sermon. And I was always looking at Jesus on the cross, and there was one in the church that was quite large, and there were the points where the nails went through the hands,
Mm.
and the nails went through the feet, and then I guess where there was a cut in his side too, and I was so moved by that. I would look at it and I would think the pain of it all, and I remember praying to God like I want to know what Jesus went through. I want to understand what it's like to experience that. And I guess my dad, I remember my dad saying, why would you ask for something like that or pray for something like that, son? And I said, because I really want to understand. I want to know what I don't know. That's what's more important.
Mm.
And that is something that I was always thinking about, was what did Jesus go through um, during that crucifixion? So I've been accident prone pretty much ever since. My mom, I drove her crazy for. I've been bit by rattlesnakes and they almost amputated my right leg. That was in
Oh
Boy
my
Scouts.
goodness.
And I was in a gasoline fire. I almost burned the house down or the garage down as a little boy, playing with gasoline with my friend Brad. And um, that was a third-degree burn over a large percentage of my leg. And they had to do peel my all my skin off and clean the wound. And then I fractured my shoulder playing football, and my arm was behind me, and my brother had to kind of bring it around to the front.
Oh.
So it was trying to like a compound fracture, things like that. I've been doing these things, like chainsawed my knee, and I just a lot of stuff. And it never really bothered me. I didn't really feel the pain, and I definitely was not accident like driven, like I was trying to do anything to hurt myself. But I was fearless.
Mm.
I and didn't I guess that took quite a toll on my physical body.
Mm. I find it, I think, yeah, ironic is the word. I'm not quite sure that your hands, because I know your hands, you struggle picking things up. You struggle with your hands today. And yet
Yes.
you're there talking about Jesus and the nails through the hands, and you wanted to experience that. How ironic that today, after your experience, you have had very damaged hands. You have experienced probably not the same, well, not the same injury, but something very similar that's left you with the memory of that. So specific to what you were asking for, what you were praying for.
Yes, and if I could just say to anyone who if you when your thoughts become your reality, your everything, your prayers, everything will become your reality. It may not happen overnight, and I just know that things that really meant a lot to me, or things that affected me as a young person, that I dwelt upon at some point in my life, they've come into fruition.
Mm,
So I just think, really, when you think about things, if you are trying to achieve something, um, aim high, and aim with love.
yeah, I love that. Definitely aim high. think big, dream big things.
Dream
Yep,
big.
I'm aligned with that part, definitely. Do you still pray? And you've talked a bit about Jesus, talked a bit about your childhood having faith. What is your faith now, and what was your faith if you had one right before the near-death experience?
I got to meet Sagoya Rinpoche, who was a Buddhist monk who wrote the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying,
Mm,
and it was right around the time that my father was passing away with cancer, and I was looking for answers because I just couldn't find the answer to make me feel satisfied with what I was reading. And I've read the Bible multiple times. I've read the Tao Te Ching, the Book of Judaism. I've read the Mormon Bible. I've read every religious text I could find, including even the Satanic Bible. And I didn't read it for reasons of wanting I wanted to know what bad was. Like I wanted to
mm,
understand. I pursued good. I always in my mind, I thought, would I know, kind of like, how would I know life if I didn't know what death was? If this hadn't happened, how would I know what good is if I didn't understand the mind of bad, instead
mm,
of just kind of, pushing aside? I thought, I want to know why people think that way, or why people would. So all the different religious texts, I kind of bypassed what I believe is utilizing what I learned through those texts to just a direct conversation with the higher source, as a friend, like as a conversation that I would have with anybody, but I have it in my mind and I talk to a higher power. It could be an angel, it could be a soul, or I hope it's God. I address this individual as God,
mm,
and I always ask it, but I don't ask for things. I always ask for understanding, that I can better understand, why am I here, and that's a big one. Why, and what can I do to make a difference when I am here? That I'm not just paddling and going nowhere, but I would like to make a difference. And so uh, Buddhism, I guess, in my heart, I believe is. I think even Albert Einstein made a comment about Buddhism being um, an all-encompassing, kind of like a hug, that that most people could have, at least have an understanding, or a an ability to comprehend,
mm,
apply.
mm.
Meditation, you know.
Is that something that you do? You meditate?
Yes, yes. I try meditating whenever I get if I get anxieties or upset. I try to break away right there and just calm my mind, and sometimes I'll meditate in traffic.
Mm, mm.
Of
Yeah,
course,
because
being extremely aware.
we have an idea that meditation has to be still and quiet and sit with our legs crossed, and there's all sorts of ideas around this, but we can meditate literally anywhere. We can connect to our higher power, God, source, higher
Yes,
self, internal, whatever it is that we call it. We can do that anywhere, in a traffic jam, in a busy
yeah,
room, in a theater, in anywhere, because it's about the internal connection, isn't it? It's about something bigger than ourselves and
yes.
not being aware of what's instantly around us. So, yeah.
I agree 100%. Truly, it's like there's, if you agree that there is a higher power, and people can put whatever title that they may have, but in my heart, I know that there is a higher source that I'm asking for guidance, and I'm doing my best to learn as many lessons as I can on my second chance at life. And I've done a lot of things. Like I quit drinking alcohol, which was kind of a big part. In Hollywood, there's a lot of drinking and a lot of carousing, and I wouldn't say the best of morality. You won't find the highest moral individuals there to look up to. Uh, but that's part of the culture. You have to be able to get along, and whatever they do, you got to play a part of. but coming back, I realized that this was an opportunity for me to honestly make changes, like to look at myself in the mirror and honestly not making excuses, but really attempt to make the correct steps towards improving what I do, what I can do, to what I can do to raise our son, Genius and my son, and so that I don't have any, I don't look back and look in the mirror and say, you're kind of a liar because you're not being honest with yourself, and you say you want to do something but you don't follow through. And I think it's kind of important in my mind that I am who I am, and that I stand for what I believe in, and I'm willing to make those commitments to
Mm.
that person.
Mm. I think that's really important because that also outlays how our future might be for us. I think if we treat our body right now, if we do the right things now, if we live with integrity now, our future will be easier. And as we age, I don't know about you, John, but as I age, I think I want to get the most out of this life. And we don't know how long we're here for. We don't know how long this physical experience is going to be. But while I'm here, I want to have quality of life. I don't want to be in a situation which is going to be really hard. Maybe that's part of life purpose. Maybe some people need to go through that to fulfill their life purpose. So at the same time, there's absolutely no judgment, but I think I want to do what I can do to have the best future for me personally. And it all comes back to these things about connecting with what do I feel is authentic for me? What do I feel is the messages? I've also got the voice like you talk about.
Yes,
I talk to mine as God as well. And that voice, when you sit down and communicate and try and tune into that voice, what is it saying to me? It often tells me exactly the thing that I want to run away from, which is how I ended up doing this podcast. If you haven't heard that episode, I was running away from this idea. It always has the best intention for us. It always knows the best. And we can fight the voice, we can fight those inner feelings. But I think if we truly tune into them, they bring us back aligned with the greatest thing for our life. And if I'm honest, it's always the most fun as well. Maybe not initially, maybe not straight away. There can be a learning curve, there can be things we go through. But if we can tune in and find the things that are aligned for our life, we get more out of this experience.
totally. And you have to be, like you said, you faced an area of that you were running from, or that you were
Yeah.
attempting not to. I'm attempting to do the same thing, to take all the challenges that I made excuses for, things that I thought maybe, that I don't know. I believe that, I want to leave a complete whole human, and not an excuse of one, a shell of a human that
Yeah.
just had an excuse for reasons why I didn't do that, or I could have been a better this. I want to be the better. I want to be the better dad, and a better, you know, partner, and a friend, and all those things. And it doesn't happen quickly, but I think by, with this experience, it's allowed me to focus on what's important, and to focus and kind of put the chatter that kind of distracts you, and
Mm.
put the take that chatter out, and keep it a real pure conversation with a higher source. And if it starts with love and ends with love, you're pretty good to go.
Yeah. Oh, I really like that. If it starts with love and ends with love, we're good to go. I love that. That's so good. I'm thinking about life reviews as well. I didn't have a life review in my near-death experience, but you had, well, this is what we would call a life review. When you saw your whole life, you re-experienced your life, and you were lucky enough to go on to the future and see future parts of your life. Are you motivated by knowing that that experience will probably happen again?
I'm
How
not
you live your
afraid.
life, because you're going to relive it again. You're going to view,
I know, and I wonder what's going to happen. See, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, that's it. It's like, it wasn't a bad experience. What happened to me, I think it was like the best thing that ever happened in my life.
hmm,
And people would say, "Look, did you punch that guy?" And I said, "No, I when I was sitting there on the curb and bleeding." he was standing next to me crying, and I
Mm,
held my hand out, and he and I held hands, and I said, "I'll be okay. It's okay. I'm going to be all right." And I held his hand, and I tried to find him about a year later. The insurance company released the photos of the vehicle, and because I asked him if I could see it because I wanted to get an understanding of what exactly occurred in that split
mm,
second.
mm.
And I tried to find the gentleman because I wanted to, maybe go back to that intersection and walk it again.
Did you go?
I told my son this last night. I said, maybe you walk it with me, son. Do you want to walk it? He said, Dad, I want to. So we're gonna go back to San Diego, and I'm gonna go to that intersection, which is funny. It's all now. They have a whole bunch of lights and buzzers and things, and it's all lit up now. So the next
Yeah.
person, they have no excuse to getting run over. When I did it, there was no button to push to have a light come on to tell you to crosswalk, and so obviously I made an impact. Uh,
Yeah.
and I remember one thing, that when I hit the ground and all that glass, I remember I was right next to a sewer grate, the sewer cap, the big steel
Mhm.
round. And I saw that in the picture. I was looking at the pictures of the intersection, and I remember, and then I look at the intersection and I thought, wow, I really flew, because where those lines were, where that truck hit me, and where I ended up landing and getting up, that was quite a distance. It was a good 30 feet that I went flying through the air. Um, so best stunt of my life, and nobody got it on television. What do you know? I've jumped off
Oh, no.
piers, and I've been in helicopter stunts, and I've done some crazy driving, and I even got to fight uh, Chuck Norris as a body double in a movie, a Top Dog, and the camera was behind me. You'd never see my face, but I
Mm,
see my body. I can see and I can see what came of that footage. But the best stunt wasn't caught on film. And maybe if
yeah.
they crosswalk, if they had cameras like they do now, I might be able to see it. But
Yeah, I think it's amazing that you, of all people, having all of your stunt background, you would have been very fit, very flexible, very able to take on this. And I keep thinking if this had happened to somebody else, maybe there was no chance to survive. Maybe they wouldn't have come back to be able to share the story like you're doing now. Makes me question, do you think that this was pre-planned? Like, was this part of your life plan? Was this always going to happen? Or is it a freak accident that just took place?
I think so. I think I again, I wasn't suicidal like that. I was trying to find a way to do myself in, but any challenge on a physical level, I embraced. I was never afraid. Friday was really the wild days on the set where there was going to be a stunt, and you would never know what was going to happen, but I would never say no. I would do whatever they asked, and get in the helicopter with Kenny Kalman from is it Don Johnson's stunt pilot on that show. I can remember what it's called. But he was the pilot, and they would say, John, the actor's not comfortable being in a helicopter doing this stunt, and they would dress me up, and I'd go in, and I would spend my Friday doing something crazy. And I always thought, hey, you know what a great way to go. If you're going to go, if you're going to go, then my goodness, let's do it, a helicopter or something. um do it with some flash, a little. And I was in the best shape of my life. I worked out every day because that's what they wanted from you, is they wanted you to be in good shape. So I was very good shape. And Gina would always say, John, you wouldn't be here if you weren't as good a shape.
Yeah.
You working out was in preparation for this impact. It was like it wasn't until I was in the best shape of my life that this occurred, and
Yeah.
that the average person would have maybe not have survived.
That's what's really impressed on me. Like, that's not lost on me that you were the one that this happened to you, that it happened to in the best shape of your life, and thinking, what are the chances of that happening? And asking the bigger question, was it always going to happen to you? Did it have to be you? Is it a bigger purpose? Is it in your life plan? How much control do we have on our life?
things that you want in life, it's not on your time, and our time is not what the time is. Oh, that's another thing that was interesting. When you're in heaven, there is no time.
I
And when
know.
you bring that back, now I'm just saying from my aspect, I'm not, I can't talk to about anybody else, but when I was in heaven and I arrived there, I'm thinking, I just got run over by does anybody know? I'm thinking, does anybody know I just got run over by a pickup truck? And I'm looking at myself and I'm whole, I'm here. And I'm thinking, no one's telling me like we have to hurry here. We gotta, because so you're in heaven and you don't know how long you're there. Like I didn't know how long I was there, but it seemed like I was there for a couple hours because of what I was experiencing and the questions that I was allowed to ask. And that's one regret I have is I didn't sit there and ask more questions. I thinking, oh, I was so quick to get out and leave and to get
Mm,
back into my physical body, which she allowed, which I'm very thankful for. But I wish I would have, because she showed me the future. Maybe I could have asked a couple more questions, like, well, what comes beyond this? Like, if that's me, and what's comes after. But I did get to see that I had there was a child and a wife to be in the future, and this young man to come into my life, which I really like, and I really appreciate that I was able to have that experience. But you are correct that I think that it's not random. That in a way it's all kind of pre-planned,
mm,
and it's on heaven's time, and you're playing out what is meant to be, or what you have dreamt, or what you've always wanted to have occur. But it may not happen as quickly as you wish it happens, be it success, or you want to be a doctor or anything. Sometimes there's obstacles, and those are the challenges that you need to work through to achieve those goals.
mm,
And
exactly.
I think about people that maybe made bad mistakes their whole life, and they're maybe in prison, and they're trying to work their way through these mistakes. But I think that if you can just figure it out before you leave, if you can make amends before you leave, that you can complete that cycle, even though you've had this just a sad and a terrible life. But it's not until the last minute, like they say in the opera, the fat lady sings. It's
Mm,
not until that last minute. You've got all this time to make it right. You can make it right, and you can make those changes. And that's kind of something that I picked up when I came back from that moment, was that I can make all this right. I can't really change what happened in the past, but from this point forward, I can turn it all around, and I could become the man that I was meant to be.
mm. And it's all about love.
Truly,
It all
100%.
connects back to
It's
that. If we can
100.
live with love, do our
It's every.
best.
It's
Yeah.
everything, and like I guess you can't like expect it, like love, but if it's inside of you, love comes pretty easy. You can love anything that appreciates love. You don't have to walk very far. I've got a couple animals here that I know are just waiting for some love, and in return they give their what they can with love, and
Mm,
that's the whole reason why we're here is love.
love. Yeah. I do think so. I think it all comes full circle around to that. It's all about love. And some people come back from these experiences saying, I was off track. I needed a bit of a boot up the backside and I need to get my life aligned again. Some come back going, well, I got a download and now I know what to do and exactly where to go. Others come back and say, I have no clue what that was all about. But every theme seems to come back to it's about love, it's about kindness, it's about doing our best and giving our best and going through this physical experience to enable us to do what we need to do, fulfill what we need to fulfill. And we might not know what that is. I'm sure when you were going through, I don't know if you go through stunt school or all those hours and hours of training that you were doing was preparing you for your experience that you had to go through so you could have these revelations, come back, live this life of love and fulfill what you need to do. And sometimes we think that things don't have any purpose. We're looking for the bigger purpose. We're looking for the big sign in the sky. What am I meant to do with my life? And maybe it is, we just need to carry on putting one step, one foot in front of each other
Yes.
with what's in front of us, what life is presenting to us. And that is our purpose, but doing it with
That
love in our heart.
that's beautiful. And
Yeah,
I could not agree with you more wholeheartedly. And that's the purpose of us here is you can't take it with you. We know that when
I
we're
know.
there, it's pretty much the birthday suit. And I did look down to see if it was a birthday suit, and I wasn't naked. I think I was wearing the same clothes that I had on, so that was interesting. In heaven, I always wondered about that. Like, was when you go there and you can't take anything with you. I do remember I was wearing clothing, which was a good thing. Um, I would have been real bashful up there knowing that, but the accumulation of I don't have the desire to accumulate anymore.
Mm.
I've got my life down to a pretty simple, healthy lifestyle, and uh, less is more.
Yeah.
And you can never have. I don't think I've ever heard anybody dying from an overdose of love.
Oh,
Like, oh,
yeah.
my parents love me too much. I just said, get away from me. You stop hugging me. Stop trying to, give me love. It, I don't think that could that could ever happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good, isn't it? It's so good. I've got
Yeah.
one burning question that I really want to ask you, John, which is how do you feel about your upcoming death? Because let's be honest, none of us are getting out of here alive. I think
Yes.
about death daily, which isn't a morbid thing. Trust me, it's not morbid, it's
Yeah.
not
Right.
negative. But when you think about your death in the future where you don't come back, so actual death experience, not a near death or a returning death experience, how do you feel about death?
I think that's possibly why I am attempting so much right now to get it right, because it's maybe it's something that you should keep as a secret. But my dream is that I could come back as an angel, because
That'd
of
be cool.
oh, because all these animals that I like. A Christmas Eve a couple of years back, there was again a deer in the middle of the road that had been hit, and there's cars coming, and I just told my wife, "Hey, you gotta stop the car." Jim, don't get out. I'm like, no, I have to. And I just got out and I carried the deer off the road again. And that was a big one, by the way. We had a Chinese exchange student in the van, and she said his expression was priceless. She said his jaw was just hanging open to see me carrying that deer off the road. But it's in that moment of being a guide for those that are leaving, because if you're afraid, you may not have the experience. So I think that if somebody is leaving and they are dying, that if you could be there to help them and guide them, that it's okay. Don't be afraid. Where you're going, it's 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 beautiful. Though I'm not attempting to accelerate the process. I would like to live to be 100, and I hope that I will, so I can hold my son's children. That's kind of part of
Mm,
my dream. I said I can leave when I'm holding my grandson
mm,
or my granddaughter. That would be good. But I'm trying to prepare and be the best human that I can possibly be before I depart for the final time.
mm. I
And
love
I
that.
and I really I even said, we lived up on this ranch, and the vultures, if there was a dead animal, we'd always put the vultures out for them to have. And I thought, hey, I wouldn't mind being food for a vulture but I don't think they have a way you could do that where you could put your body out there and allow the vultures to, when you've passed, to allow the vultures to have a meal. Um, I have no problem with
Actually,
that.
I think I'm not sure if it's in, gosh, excuse me, listeners, if I get this all wrong, but I think it's in Chinese culture, in traditional Chinese culture, that there was a belief that if you left the body out for the vultures, then you'd have a better afterlife. Now, I hope I've got that correct. And it
Wow.
was always as well, as high as you can leave the body. So they'd take them up on mountainsides and leave them for the vultures. So I think that's actually a genuine thing. It's probably not so common these days in the US. Here in New Zealand, it's not something we're really going to do, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I like your idea of recycling, of
Well, thanks.
giving
Goodness,
sustenance. You can also get composted. My husband says to me, I want to be composted. I want you to grow a tree out of my
I like
my
that.
parts that are left. And I go, I'm not a good gardener. I don't want that responsibility. What if I kill
Kirsten,
the tree?
that is so nice to hear. Because I think I will make sure that I express that. Not that that's the important thing, because when you leave your body, it doesn't really matter what becomes of your physical body. It's just your vessel to participate on
Mm,
earthly um this earthly world. I guess I call it a matrix, or this earthly plane. You have to have a physical for interactions, so you can our people we can see each other. But I'm not really concerned what becomes of my physical body when I'm gone. People can do
mm.
whatever they want with it, really. But I just thought it'd be really nice for the vultures to have their
Have a meal.
they deserve a meal. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's really great. Jon Miller, thank you so much. This has been fascinating. I love just hearing your story, and I felt a lot of emotion as you've gone along. So I greatly appreciate that. I know our listeners will appreciate that. And yes, we wish you the absolute best in your quest to become all that you can be in this life, to fulfill this life as much as you can. And Jon, thank you for sharing your story with us.
Bless you.